Picture this. It's 2 in the morning in the middle of the North Pacific, 40 miles from the nearest land. The sky is black, the water is blacker, and somewhere out in that darkness, a wall of water taller than a 5-story building is moving toward a fishing boat at 30 miles an hour. A 50-foot wave. That's not a metaphor, that's a measured, documented, regularly occurring event in the world's commercial fishing grounds. And here's the part that makes no sense at first. Below deck, 4 men are asleep. Not bracing, not awake, not gripping the rails and praying. Asleep. In their bunks. Some of them snoring. The wave hits. The entire boat tilts almost onto its side, climbs the face of the water, and drops down the back of it like a roller coaster, and the men keep sleeping. Most people assume that's insanity or denial or some kind of fisherman's bravado. It's none of those things. It's the result of 200 years of engineering, a handful of physics principles most people never learned, and a set of decisions that were made weeks before the boat ever left the harbor. There are 3 layers to this story. The first explains why the boat doesn't flip. The second reveals the design choices that keep those sleeping men alive. And the third is something almost nobody expects. By the end of this video, you'll never look at a fishing boat the same way again. So let's start with the obvious question. How does a boat get hit by a 50-foot wall of water and not roll completely over? The answer comes down to a quiet, invisible argument happening inside the hull every single second. It's a fight between 2 forces, and the entire survival of the boat depends on which one wins. The first force is gravity pulling down through a single point called the center of gravity. The second is buoyancy pushing up through a different point called the center of buoyancy. On a well-built boat, the center of gravity sits low down near the keel, and the center of buoyancy shifts depending on how the hull is sitting in the water. Here's why that matters. When a wave shoves the boat onto its side, the hull's shape forces the center of buoyancy to swing outward toward the low side. And the moment those 2 points are out of line, they create a twisting force, a force that rotates the boat back upright. Engineers call it the righting moment. The further the boat tips, the harder that force pushes back. That's the secret. A properly designed fishing boat doesn't resist getting knocked over. It's built to get knocked over and stand right back up automatically with no input from anyone. The men below don't need to do anything because the geometry of the hull is doing it for them. But there's a number that controls all of this, and if it's wrong, everything I just described works in reverse. It is called metacentric height. Think of it as a measurement of how stubbornly a boat wants to stay upright. Too little, and the boat is sluggish and tips easily. Too much, and it snaps upright so violently it can throw a man across the deck or crack the hull. Naval architects spend enormous effort dialing in that one value because it is the difference between a boat that rides a 50-foot wave and a boat that becomes a headline. And that brings us to the design choices, because stability is only half the battle. The other half is what happens to all that water. Because a 50-foot wave does not just lift a boat, it buries it. Tons of seawater crash directly onto the deck, and water is heavy, roughly 64 pounds per cubic foot of seawater. A deck full of trapped water can weigh more than the boat itself, and worse, it sloshes. Engineers call that the free surface effect, and it is one of the deadliest forces at sea. Sloshing water raises the center of gravity and kills the righting moment we just talked about. A boat that should pop upright instead just keeps rolling. So the entire design fights to get that water off the deck as fast as it lands. Look along the sides of any serious fishing vessel and you will see openings cut into the hull at deck level. Those are freeing ports. They are not decoration, they are escape hatches for water, designed to dump hundreds of gallons back into the ocean within seconds of a wave breaking over the rail. Then there is the part that protects the sleeping men directly. Watertight integrity. The hull below deck is divided into separate sealed compartments by walls called bulkheads. If one section floods, the others stay dry and the boat stays afloat. Every hatch, every door, every opening between the deck and the sleeping quarters is sealed with heavy clamps the crew tightens by hand. They call it dogging down the hatches. It is the last thing done before a storm, and it is why a wave can completely submerge the deck while the bunks below stay bone dry. But the most important piece sits hidden at the very bottom of the boat. Ballast. Tons of dead weight, sometimes lead, sometimes iron, sometimes seawater pumped into tanks, placed as low as physically possible. Ballast is what keeps that center of gravity pinned down near the keel. It is the anchor in the fight against gravity. And on the most advanced boats, it makes the vessel self-righting, meaning it can be rolled completely upside down a full 180 degrees and still flip itself back over. Which raises the question nobody wants to ask. What happens when it does not? Because here is the truth, not every boat is built this way, and every one of these systems has a breaking point. Picture the same boat, same to AM. But this time the deck is coated in 6 inches of ice because in places like the Bering Sea, freezing spray builds up on every surface, ton after ton of it, all of it sitting high above the waterline. That ice raises the center of gravity. It quietly undoes everything the ballast was doing. A boat that could survive a 50-foot wave at sundown can become fatally unstable by midnight without a single thing changing except the temperature. Now add a freeing port jammed with debris so the water cannot drain. Add a hatch that was not dogged down all the way. Add a hold full of fish sliding to one side. Any one of these can flip the righting moment from saving the boat to sinking it. And when a boat that size goes over in those conditions, the men below have seconds, not minutes. This is exactly why commercial fishing is consistently one of the deadliest jobs on Earth. The ocean does not negotiate, and the margin between a routine night and a disaster is razor thin, which is why survival does not start when the wave hits. It starts long before the boat ever leaves the dock. Every serious skipper runs the same checklist, and most of it covers problems landlubbers never imagine. First, the stability book. Every vessel has a document that dictates exactly how much weight can go where, calculated by naval architects. Ignore it, and the safest boat in the fleet becomes a coffin. Second, icy. In cold waters, crews physically beat ice off the rigging with bats and mallets in the middle of the night because letting it build up is a death sentence. Third, the hatches and freeing ports, checked and rechecked because a single clogged drain changes the math. And fourth, the watch. Because here is the thing about those sleeping men. They are never all asleep. There is always one person awake in the wheelhouse every minute of every night, watching the radar, the weather, and the sea, backed up by autopilot systems and alarms that scream the instant something goes wrong. The men in the bunks can sleep precisely because someone is always standing between them and the dark. And that is the part that surprises people most. Ask a fisherman who has slept through a 50-foot swell in a well-built boat whether he was scared. Most of them will shrug. To them, the rise and fall of a massive wave is not terror, it is a rhythm. The hull lifts, tilts, settles and rights itself over and over like a cradle the size of a building. Some of them say it is the best sleep they ever get because a boat built right does not fight the ocean. It works with it. And the men below are not gambling with their lives. They are trusting 200 years of engineering to do exactly what it was designed to do. So the next time you see a fishing boat heading out past a breakwater, remember what's really holding it together. Not luck, not bravery, physics, ballast, and a hull shaped to stand back up no matter how hard the sea pushes it down. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been out on the open ocean in a real storm? What did it feel like? Drop it in the comments. And if you learned something today, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.